What is proof texting? When debating a doctrine or testing a belief, we must know and be able to identify the method of proof texting. So let's get started. Proof texting is a method used when isolating a single verse completely out of context in order to prove a theological position. Proof texting makes a verse sound like it's saying something completely different in comparison to when it's read in context. Proof texting is the attempt to try and establish a belief by taking a single verse out of context and misusing it. In other words, it's a way of bearing false witness by misusing Bible verses. We all at one point or another caught ourselves proof texting, but hopefully, once identified, repented of this method and looked into the true meaning of a single verse by reading the entire chapter in its proper context. In order to avoid being misled by any proof text, I always recommend going to each verse cited and reading the entire chapter in which it's found. Every time you should pray for truth, read the entire chapter and apply proper hermeneutics. Then you should see the true meaning of any verse being used by yourself and others. If you get a completely different answer from that single verse quoted, you possibly have identified a proof text. 2 Timothy 2:15. Do your best to present yourself to Elohim as one approved, a worker who has no need to be ashamed, rightly handling the word of truth. A popular example of a proof text is Isaiah 43 verse 11. I, even I, am Yehovah, and beside me there is no Savior. Many anti-missionaries will try and use this single verse isolated, i.e. a proof text, in order to try and prove that we don't need a human Messiah, Yeshua, but that we only need the Father. But reading all of Isaiah 43 in context, Yehovah is comparing himself to the false gods of the heathen nations like Babylon, which is where Israel was in captivity in those days when Isaiah wrote this chapter. The false gods, the carved idols of Babylon, cannot save Israel, but only the one true living Elohim, Yehovah, can save them. This verse and chapter is in no way disqualifying the sent out ones, the Messiahs, who are sent by the Father all throughout the Tanakh, and ultimately the Messiah Yeshua in the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament. Please share below your experience with identifying a proof text. Thank you and shalom.